I have heard that everyone has that one person who got away. It doesn't mean you want to be with them now, but they still come to mind. Is this true? Story 1. I have an ex-girlfriend who never gave me a clear reason for leaving. For a long time, I thought I wanted to get back together. But as I grew up, I realized it was entirely about my wounded pride and the mystery of what I should have done differently. Once I understood that, I stopped caring. I was also laid off, which gave me another reason to obsess about my wounded pride from that experience. Story 2. I have met a few people in my life with whom I could have ended up and been very happy, but I don't consider them missed opportunities because I'm currently very happy. It would be an interesting tour around the multiverse, though. Story 3. Every love is the perfect one that got away if you cut it short. However, every person can be annoying if you deal with them long enough. Story 4. The love of my life is in another state and married. I haven't seen her since 2005, but she called me last year unexpectedly to remind me that our feelings were mutual and that she had been watching me through social media all those years. I had chosen to move on completely, never searching for her or observing her life. Yet her voice alone was enough to awaken every emotion I had buried when I left her city. Story 5. I don't know if all men feel this way. Some men may not share their feelings. Personally, I do. Scarlett, if you get divorced, please reach out to me. Story 6. Heavy insurance sulky attempt to recognize offbeat late morn handle tender. Story 7. I met and started dating a girlfriend in high school, and we married after college. This was back in the mid-1970s. I never had anyone I could say, got away. Story 8. I had one ex who I felt that way about for years. Truth be told, I probably mourned losing her throughout my entire subsequent relationship. Then I met my current wife, and it immediately became clear that all my prior relationships were just practice so that I could get this one right. These days, I have nothing but gratitude for my past failed relationships and for all they taught me about myself, what I want, what I have to offer, and how to truly love and be loved. Story 9. In 1999, in Columbia, Missouri, at the Blue Note Bar, Someday by Sugar Ray was playing. A girl in a red dress bumped into me as she headed to the dance floor. We smiled at each other and did a little sidestep dance to get around one another. Later, I was sitting at a table with my friends when she sat at the table behind me. When we all got up to leave, she caught my eye. I said, "Thanks for the dance." Jokingly, she replied in kind with a wink and a smile, and that was it. I went home and never saw her again. 25 years later, I still see her as the one that got away. Story 10. Yes, I have one or two people who I think of occasionally. However, I am also old enough to understand that it's just a childish fantasy. If I had actually spent a longer period of time with either of them, I know we would have inevitably discovered the kinds of faults that occur in every relationship. There is no way I would trade anyone for my wife. Story 11. I thought I did. Turns out she wasn't. And now I have the most amazing girlfriend. I have never been treated better by a person in my entire life. Story 12. I had a girl who was obviously interested in me, and I was planning to confess my feelings. That very morning, when we were supposed to get coffee, she approached me looking like she was about to cry. She told me that her parents did not want her associating with a white boy. I asked her for a simple yes or no regarding whether she found me attractive, but she could not give me a direct answer. Story 13. My current girlfriend would be the one if she ever decided to leave me. I hope that doesn't happen because I really love her. Story 14. Doesn't everyone sometimes wonder about the road not taken? A great deal of fiction explores the theme of what if. Stories like that have been consistently popular for decades, at least as far back as It's a Wonderful Life. I believe most people think about these concepts occasionally. Since love, marriage, and children are often the most significant aspects of our lives, some of our what if scenarios will surely involve the person we didn't marry and how life would be different. Story 15. So I'm going to just open this up. 3 to 4 years ago, I was in a 3 to 4 month relationship with a wonderful woman. We got along great. We liked similar things, but were different enough that we had to learn each other's interests, which was still fun. Sexually, we were on the same page, having sex 3 to 4 times a day and sharing the same kinks. Overall, she was a great girlfriend. Eventually, it became obvious that we were at different points in life. I was working retail jobs while she had a career. She made good money and I struggled to pay rent. It was clear we were not on the same path, so we decided to end the relationship before it went too far. We both knew it just couldn't last. However, she was definitely someone I could have seen myself with for a long time. I thought, and would say when we broke up, right person, wrong time. We tried to be friends after the breakup, but it was hard, especially when she started dating someone new. I couldn't handle it, so I distanced myself from our friendship, and eventually we stopped talking. Until a week ago when she texted me. It turned out she had just broken up with that guy a week before reaching out to me. Now, I'm in a strange place where I want to be with her, not necessarily in a relationship, as I'm in a weird situation myself. I faced a lot of stress in my life recently. One of my cats has been in and out of the vet this past month. While I was at the vet, my dad passed away. So I'm in a state of limbo. I don't think I want a relationship right now anyway, and it's clear she isn't ready for one either. The last month has been one of the most stressful periods of my life, and receiving a random text from her literally made me forget everything else for a little while. We hooked up last weekend, and I'm going back to her place tomorrow. She wants to talk about what she is looking for and what's going on in her mind. She seems to be extremely conflicted because I think she feels the spark between us two, and it's a lot for her to handle. It still feels like right person, wrong time. I'm willing to be whatever she needs right now. I'm happy to just be friends with benefits or platonic friends. Anything besides boyfriend or girlfriend, because I know for a fact that she needs to heal. Even if she were to suggest a relationship, I would turn it down because she requires time. I'm willing to be a rebound after that relationship, but I don't want to be the rebound relationship. I need to ensure she heals properly on her own before entering another relationship. I've talked to friends and even my sisters, and they all agree that I'm handling this the right way. But they advise me to be careful because she just got out of a 2 to 3 year relationship. She's going to be going through a lot, and I could get hurt in the process. I just don't want to mess it up. Having her back in my life, even in a limited fashion for only a week, has reminded me of how much she means to me. She mentally checked out of the relationship back in May. She broke up with him 2 weeks ago and told me she started thinking of me weeks before they ended things. Story 16. Who I am today feels so different from who I was that it practically feels like all my past girlfriends and crushes were with someone else, and I stole their memories. I believe I felt this way in the past, but the more successful I became with women, the more that feeling faded. If you still feel like you have someone who got away, you need to take her off the pedestal in your mind. You are simply undermining your future with unrealistic thoughts. Story 17. Anytime I think about past relationships and what I could have done differently, it always ends with me considering ways to not be myself. I am not perfect, but if I have to act or say things in a way that is unnatural to who I am, that is not healthy. So whenever I date someone, I try to offer them the most honest representation of myself. If it didn't work out with someone I really liked, I assume, at least after I've calmed down emotionally, that they weren't compatible with who I naturally am. It hurts in the short term, but I believe it will be better in the long term. Story 18. Not all men. Some do. Most of those who do not have problems because of it. Those who do, you do not want to be with anyway. Story 19. I don't know about that. Sure, there were good ex-partners and more could have been done, but the past is the past. There is too much to do while growing up, and there are other good or even better options. You learn from the past. In relationships and drama, many people are at fault, and it's not solely one person. Once you evolve, you'll view it as a blessing, prompting more reflection on what went wrong and fostering self-awareness. There is absolutely no shortage of attractive women. When a woman is attracted to you, she is likely to be kinder and warmer towards you, encouraging you to be a better person while continuing to learn and stay passionate. A lot of change happens during a relationship, so nothing will be perfect. If I'm in love with someone, I doubt I will be thinking about other women or past relationships. It feels unfair to my current partner, to be honest. Story 20. When I started driver's education in the summer, There was a girl who approached me one day after the first week of class. She began talking to me out of the blue, and we discovered that we sat right across from each other. We hit it off immediately, and there wasn't one awkward pause in the conversation. It became a daily routine. She would come up to me after class, and we would talk until our rides arrived. We always made a game of guessing whose ride would come first, and it was usually hers. We partnered up in class every day for the 2 hours it lasted. Near the end of the class, we realized we wouldn't see each other for the rest of the summer or the upcoming school year. As we lived on opposite sides of town and went to different high schools, I would be a sophomore and she would be a senior, so it wouldn't have worked out very well even if we attended the same school. However, I often wonder what could have been if we were at the same school, if she had been a year younger, or if I had been a year older. I don't think I have had an instant connection like that again. Story 21. I don't know about everyone, but I do know that I got her back. I've shared my story here before, but my high school sweetheart and I broke up before I graduated. 15 years and 2 marriages later, we reconnected and are approaching our 9th anniversary. If you want the long version, feel free to look at my previous comments. Story 22. No, I don't miss any of my exes enough to consider getting back with any of them. I married the best woman I have ever been with, and it is not even close. Story 23. Yes and no. My first girlfriend represented many firsts for me, and when we broke up, I carried that experience for a long time. I will always hold her in high regard as a significant part of my history. However, sometimes you meet someone who makes you feel that the previous relationships didn't slip away, but were simply part of the learning process. Though we haven't said it formally yet, I absolutely love my girlfriend. There are so many things about her that make me wish I had met her sooner. In many ways, those who got away were either in the way or just part of the way. If your partner makes you feel like he has someone who got away, then you might not be there yet and you may never be. I firmly believe that if someone is hung up on an ex, then their current relationship is just part of a rebound. I also have a tendency to enter relationships around the time when I would describe myself as happily single and focusing on myself. Story 24. I had 2 relationships. One was within a year of my wife's death. She lived nearby, was a good lover and cook. She consulted a spiritual advisor who told her that I wasn't the one. I still miss her. The second relationship was around the year 2000. She was a retired school teacher in early elementary education. She grew tired of school politics and quit. She took a job at a Christian school in the area, but that school eventually closed. I helped her secure a position at the Christian school I attended, where she worked for a couple of years before it too closed. In the meantime, I asked her to marry me. She accepted, but over the next year, the relationship fell apart. I would have married either one, but it just didn't work out. So here I am, a 76-year-old bachelor looking for a woman about my age who wants companionship and still enjoys adult activities. Story 25. I thought women were stereotyped as still hung up on the one who got away. Did anyone else see the joke on TikTok where a woman at a bridal shower calls her ex just to be sure he's not coming back? Story 26. I had relationships end that I didn't necessarily want to conclude at the time, but I can't say there is one that got away. An argument could be made that I made a mistake by not getting married when I was engaged, but there are also arguments that suggest I made the right decision. Story 27. I have women who were great people, and we parted ways for mutual reasons. Those women are doing well, and I'm so glad for them. I also have women who were terrible, and I'm relieved they are no longer in my life. Story 28. Some men do while others do not. However, those who do will respond here, which may create the impression that most men do. Story 29. Not to that extent, no. I've had girls with whom I thought I had a chance, but nothing that ever left me wondering what if. Story 30. I think this is one of those things that is a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Even if a man hasn't dated much, there is likely someone with whom he could have had a relationship but missed the opportunity. Story 31. I think if you are young and optimistic and a relationship ends before you want it to, you hold on to it until the next great relationship. However, most relationships end when they are meant to, And if that happens, you simply move on. Story 32. If they are the one that got away, then they weren't truly the one. Wondering about what might have been is perfectly normal and human, but fixating on it is completely pointless and holds you back. Fond memories of a person and the time spent with them are perfectly fine to reminisce over, but speculating on hypotheticals and holding on to what-ifs is unhealthy. You cannot do anything with mights, maybes, and could-haves. Story 33. Depends. I felt that way until I found the lady I married. The best cut and quality of steak is what you choose in life, but we all enjoy greasy cheeseburgers now and then. Story 34. I certainly do, but thankfully my current girlfriend is similar to her in many ways, and even better, so I don't dwell on her anymore. Story 35. I have met many amazing and beautiful women who actually wanted to get to know me, for reasons I realized were foolish as I got older. Story 36. God no. Many of us can't believe how much better our wives or girlfriends are than anyone else who came before her. Story 37. Some men marry their high school sweetheart and remain together until they both pass away in their 70s or 80s. Some men have not yet experienced a significant relationship in their lives, regardless of being in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s. Some men were promiscuous in their youth, engaging in flings and other shallow encounters without any real depth. Some men achieve romantic success and become the person who is remembered as the one that got away by women, rather than the other way around. Story 38. I have one that got away. She was absolutely wonderful and it hurt quite a lot. However, the next one turned out to be even better and I married her. Story 39. No, not at all. Every single one I have ever had my eye on is either still tied up in the basement or buried beneath it. Story 40. I am happily married with 2 children and love them all dearly. There was one girl from Latvia who had to move back home, so I never found out how that relationship would have gone. But I wouldn't change my life for anything. Story 41. No, it's not uncommon to have at least one relationship in your past that ended unexpectedly, leading you to wonder about it from time to time. However, the cultural concept of the one that got away often over-romanticizes what is, for most people, a more mundane experience. Story 42. I wouldn't say all, but I certainly do. I think back to most of my exes with fondness and contemplate why it didn't work out. Often, this is paired with thoughts about why my relationship with my wife did work out. It reinforces my choices every time. Yes, there is one in particular that comes to mind more than the others. I believe this occurs with men who have dated around, and I expect it happens to women as well. Story 43. No, stop listening to individuals who claim to speak for everyone in a specific group. Use your own judgment and a bit of common sense. Story 44. No, to be honest, the person I thought was the one showed her true colors, alienated me, and made me switch schools. I'm with my soulmate now. Good riddance. Story 45. I cannot speak for all men, but there is one woman I regret not moving on from earlier and later not inviting her unreliable boyfriend to a sandbar in the middle of a river. I'm not trying to sound tough. I only want to express how I felt. Story 46. I have had 2 friends with benefits, and I wondered if we could have taken things further. I liked them both well enough and we were good friends, but life happened. Now I am very happily married, though occasionally the thought comes up about what my life would look like now. Story 47. Not all, but probably a majority do. There are 2 different types of perceived losses: puppy love or first love, and potentially real love. Many will conflate the two. Story 48. Angie, hindsight is clear, but life moves on and so must I. I have a life now with a wife, children, and happiness. Story 49. That's a strange question to ask. Do I think about the good times I've had in my past? Yes. Were there other people in my past? Yes. Were some of those people women? Yes. What are you trying to get at with this question? The one that got away implies something specific, but then you contradict that by saying, it doesn't mean you want to be with them now. So your criteria could encompass any woman I have ever been interested in or dated and think about positively. Story 50. I felt that way for a while about one, but I realized as I got more mature that I had actually dodged a bullet. Story 51. For many, there might be a person from their past who made a significant impact or was a memorable part of their life. This doesn't necessarily mean they want to rekindle things, but it is not uncommon for people to think about past relationships or misconnections. Story 52. It was a girl I had a crush on and was friends with since third grade. It felt like the universe never allowed us to be together. When she moved to a different town for middle and high school, we kept in contact, but she always had a boyfriend. By the time we graduated from high school, we were both single, but I was going out of state for college. We hung out whenever I returned from break and even kissed a couple of times, but she ended up with someone else and had a child with him, so I did my best to move on. She is now out as bisexual and is married to a woman, but I still think about her often. I wish we could have tried a relationship, even if it had been short-lived. Story 53. I had a couple of friends who I really liked, but I knew deep down that they wouldn't return my feelings, so I never confessed or tried to take it further than regular friendship. I still think of them from time to time. Story 54. Not so much got away, but there wasn't any sort of resentment. To explain, I dated a woman when I was in the Navy, stationed in Idaho. Decades later, we reconnected on Facebook. We are both married, live far apart, and there is nothing going on between us. But we started chatting. Neither of us could recall when or why we broke up. Neither of us had any hurt from it. We were just dating, and then we weren't. It was kind of cool, especially when I think back on every other relationship. Story 55. Your question isn't phrased very well. The one that got away typically means you want them now. I married mine so she wouldn't get away, and she feels the same way about me, so that worked out. I definitely have ex-partners that come to mind, but it's not romantic in any way. It's no different than a friend I've lost contact with. Story 56. Not at all, there are women my mind wanders to now and again, but if I had actually married them, I wouldn't have my children now. That's something I wouldn't trade for anything. Story 57. I thought I had one that got away. After some reflection many years later, I realized I am lucky that I am the one who got away. Story 58. No, not all men. Not all of anything in most contexts. What is it with these all or nothing questions? Story 59. I often think about the first girl I went on a real date with in 8th grade. For some reason, I never asked for a second date. It wasn't anything serious, just an early teenage crush. However, I think about her every now and then. Story 60. I was upset by a breakup, but over time, I realized that if they didn't want me, then why should I want them? Nothing gained, nothing lost. Story 61. I do. It's been years, and every now and then she'll appear in a dream, leaving me very annoyed with myself. I think, I thought I was over this. Even in relationships, I just ignore it and don't let my partner know about it. Story 62. I think in life we are all given a chance that is truly amazing. However, because it is so amazing and often happens early in our lives, many of us do not know what to do. The one that got away for me was when I was a junior in high school about 5 years ago. Prior to this, I had a total of 1 month and 1 week of dating experience, and I had never been on a date with a girl. When this girl came along, I tried very hard, and I am honestly glad I did, even though it did not lead anywhere and she will not respond to my messages. I went on a few dates with her, and I think a relationship could have been built, but I just wasn't ready for it yet because I tried too hard. Story 63. Not every man has the one that got away, but I would not be surprised if most have regrets about past mistakes or wonder what might have happened if they had made different choices. I remember meeting a woman. We had not officially started dating, but it was clear that we were interested in each other and making progress. At that same time, I had met another woman who was interested in me and who, objectively, was probably a better match for me personality-wise. However, I felt it would be unfair to abruptly stop pursuing one woman for another, as there always seems to be the possibility of finding another better match. Looking back, it was early in the process, and it may not have been unreasonable to choose the woman with a better personality match and fewer red flags. That said, there is no guarantee that it would have worked out with her either, so I may have been worse off had I chosen her. Ultimately, who really knows? Story 64. I can only speak for myself. The answer is absolutely. It's been 35 years, and I think of her all the time. Story 65. I only have one girl. I was too scared to take my shot with her when I had the one and only chance I would ever be given by the universe. Story 66. He said he wanted to date, but when I asked him the same, he changed his mind and said he didn't want anything serious, while I am a serious person. I thought I was the unreasonable one and let the whole situation go. Story 67. When I saw this new girl at school walk into my 8th grade class, I was stunned. Felt like a scene from a movie. Over the years, we became friends and grew closer again after university. The connection was always there, but it just never officially happened. She moved abroad for over 10 years and has now returned with her husband and 2 kids. I'm truly happy for her. A life lesson for young people. If you have a connection with someone that feels right, act on it. The age-old quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take," is true in every sense of the phrase. Story 68. I have had many opportunities that I missed. There is only one person I know of that I might have had a chance with. However, the bottom line is that they all got away. Story 69. Yes, many people have that one person from the past they think about, even if they are happy in their current relationship. Story 70. Unfortunately, I missed the signs and thought I wasn't good enough. We were really close and used to go out together. I just never took it further. Even when I told her that people thought we were a couple, she said she didn't mind. You'd think right there I would have understood. But no. I wonder to this day if she thought I wasn't fully interested or if she believed she did something wrong. Who knows? I do regret being foolish. Story 71. My high school sweetheart went to college an hour away from mine. I let her get away. I attended parties and engaged in casual relationships while she focused on her studies and maintained her good reputation. Story 72. I am very happy with my wife, and I am glad that those I sent away have remained away, as well as those who sent me away. If you cannot see me the way my wife sees me, that is your loss. I am delightful. Story 73. If you are asking whether men have an idealized person they fantasize about and long for at times, then yes, the average man has done that at least a few times. What matters is whether you let that idea prevent you from making the most of the real-life relationships you have. Story 74. Kind of a strange way to define one that got away. All kinds of people from my past pop into my head, and my exes are not an exception to this. I would never call any of the people that come to my mind ones that got away. I would say that term should be reserved for a longing feeling or a sense of missing out. A simple thought should not qualify. Story 75. If you ask me if I have a girl who got away, I can think of someone from years ago, but that's only if prompted. I don't sit around at night thinking, if only I was with her, life would be perfect. As for my regrets, it's less about believing she was the one and more about not pursuing it. The signals were there, but I assumed that someone like her wouldn't be interested in someone like me. Story 76. Nope, in fact, I look at what a couple of old girlfriends post on the internet about politics and thank my lucky stars I got out of there when I did. Story 77. Yes, for me it happened 3 times. My first crush at 12. My first soul twin at 20. My first true soulmate at 26. I am 32. I doubt I'll find a 4th. Story 78. No, I don't have one. But I do have moments where I look back on my teenage years and reflect on how naive I was for not seeing the signs that women were interested in me. I don't regret my choices in those moments, but it's amusing to realize our naivety. Story 79. I am fortunate to have married the love of my life. For all my faults and insecurities, she compliments me far better than any other woman I have met. There have been a few what-ifs that stuck in my head. Fleeting moments where a spark felt real. But I am glad they were nothing more than that. The only what-if I can properly consider is a girl I connected with randomly one day. We went for a drink, which turned into multiple drinks and a day that stretched on. We had a great spontaneous date and definitely connected. She seemed interested in me and I felt the same. She appeared to be a wonderful person. She wanted to go for a second date, but eventually stopped communicating. She may have gotten cold feet. She matched my definition of my ideal partner in terms of ambition and other attributes. It was neither the right time nor the right place in my life for that, and I am glad it didn't pan out. My wife is who I am meant to be with, and I know that confidently after a decade of being together. Story 80. For me, yes. I ended it when I found out she was younger than I thought. 18, by the way, so don't lose your composure. I was 26. I had a moral dilemma at that point in my life. Even her strict mother was actually cool with it. We always stayed friends. She is married with kids and happy. It still gets to me, though. The what if? I am so glad all the others ended, even though I dealt with the epic pain at the time. But that one, I am still so happy for her. Her husband is the luckiest man. Story 81. It's not universal, but it is common. I know many of my male friends who are still hung up on a girl they let get away. However, keep in mind that they are all single, and most of my male friends who are in a relationship do not think that way. Story 82. I have been with over 30 women before my current partner. If she were to leave, it might be difficult, but that is why I make an effort to put my best foot forward. She feels even more passionate about me, which makes our relationship work beautifully. Story 83. I do not regret leaving or being left by anyone. Once I met my wife, everything clicked into place. What was hard work before is easy now. What would have been an extremely crazy argument with someone else is now just a simple conversation. If people knew how easy life is when you find the right match, they would break up and move on quicker instead of trying to stay in an unfulfilling relationship for months or years. Story 84. A girl I was close to in college met me at the wrong time in my life. I admit that I take full responsibility because, even though we were both in difficult situations, I put in no effort when I should have been giving my all. It's funny how sometimes it takes a while to realize that. Story 85. There was definitely one I wanted to keep, but it was painful for me to hold on to her. She didn't want my help, nor did she want to seek help or go to counseling with me. I had to cut ties. I can't even look at her because it hurts too much. I have blocked her everywhere. Story 86. She was the perfect girl, with blonde hair, the prettiest eyes, and a smile that lights up the room. Those features caught my eye early on, but the more I got to know her, the more I saw that she was genuinely a sweet and amazing person with a personality I grew to love more each day. The problem was that she was also my coworker. We worked together for roughly 2 years, dating someone else at first, but later becoming single. After she became single, in hindsight, I realized she might have felt the same way about me. I never asked her out for fear of rejection and making things awkward at work if she said no, especially after I nearly asked her out when she was dating someone else without knowing at the time, dodging a bullet and not wanting to risk a second one. Then one day, a couple of months ago, she quit, and I never saw her again. There isn't a day that goes by without the phrase 2 years being in my mind. 2 years. Will you go out with me? 6 words, and I was too cowardly to ask. If I could do it over, I would ask her out the day she first started working, the same day I began to fall for her. I hope life treats you well, Marissa. And I hope one day I can move on and remember this feeling to never let someone as special as you slip from my fingers again. In summary, if anyone learns anything from this entire situation, it is to not let others' history repeat itself in your life. Take the chance and don't live to regret not even trying. Story 87. I let go of all the previous women I dated except for 2 of them, and I wouldn't want either back. My fiancée is the only one I want to spend the rest of my life with, so I'm content. Story 88. I cut it off because I was struggling with stress. We were young and reconnected years later as friends. I would have liked another chance, but that was on me for failing. I wouldn't risk it if I were her. I haven't talked to her in years. Story 89. Maybe it didn't get away, but we didn't get a chance. I dated her right out of high school, but I left for the military at the end of the summer. It was going really well, and I'm sure it would have kept progressing. It turned into a long-distance relationship, and it slowly faded. We're still friends, but we are married to other people now. Story 90. Yes, that's true, at least in my case. Looking back, I am almost positive she had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, significant problems with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and emotional dysregulation. She often had trouble telling the truth. Many years later, I was formally diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so we were a difficult combination. I almost called her again last year. Story 91. I have never had more than 4 dates with anyone, so no. However, there are a couple I regret letting get away. Story 92. There are 2 girls I dated decades ago whom I still wonder about. One out of genuine curiosity, who I dated in high school, and one out of morbid fascination, who I dated after college. However, the love of my life is in the adjacent room right now sorting through papers. So I don't really have the one who got away, the one I play what if scenarios with in my mind. In fact, my life is so lovely right now that I mentally recoil from the what if questions that involve more than, what if I managed to keep that weight off when I tried to lose it 10 years ago? Story 93. I think some women do as well. Or the one that almost was. It has been 15 years and I still wonder what could have been. Story 94. This is a negative mindset to live with. Be happy with who you have in your life. Otherwise, you may lose someone important. Unless your current relationship is harmful or abusive, make the most of what you have. Appreciate your partner because they are the one you have. Story 95. I cannot speak for everyone, but I have several experiences that slipped away. Fortunately, I am now married to the perfect woman for me on this planet. Story 96. Let me simplify my message for everyone reading. If someone ever tells you all men or all women, just assume that person is misinformed. Human beings are distinctly different from one another. While some stereotypes may hold true in general, just because a few individuals you have interacted with acted a certain way, it does not mean all human beings behave that way. Story 97. Everyone has a what if. If you're old enough, you will have a few. One of my best friends is my oldest one. We dated nearly 20 years ago, got engaged, hit a rough patch, and then I left. She got her life together a few years later and is now married with 2 children. I'm happy for her, and to this day, I love her in a non-romantic way. While I'm glad for the way everything turned out, I do wonder how life would have gone if I had been better to her and helped her get the support she needed. I've had 2 others. I made my peace with one, while the other is still too fresh. For anyone holding on to the past, all I can say is, learn your lessons and move on. Don't let your past poison your future. Story 98. Yes, we do. We also have that one girl who should have gotten away but stayed and put us through difficulty instead. Story 99. I had a girlfriend I would have been happy to end up with. I was disappointed when she broke up with me, but I cannot imagine being much happier than I am with my wife. Story 100. I met her when I was 18. She approached me at the bar and began a conversation, confusing me with someone else. I went along with it until she realized her mistake. We dated for a while before she left to travel. When I was around 30, I attended a concert and heard someone say my name. I turned around, and it was her. She looked amazing. We started dating again and were together for a couple of years. I focused on my studies and finding a better job, while she enjoyed partying. Eventually, she cheated on me, became pregnant, and got married. Now in my early 50s, I saw her 2 months ago. She asked to meet to discuss a project, but then she ghosted me. I'm not sure if she's the one that got away or if I dodged a bullet. Story 101. Absolutely not. I have several experiences that got away, and in every case, it was a positive thing that helped me grow and reach where I am now, with the right person to be my wife. I wouldn't change anything about my romantic past. Story 102. My next-door neighbor and I grew up together. I had a crush on a girl from school who did not like me back. When my neighbor told me she had a crush on me, I declined. I sometimes wonder how things would have turned out if I had said yes. Story 103. I have had a few girls with whom I later discovered I had a real chance, but it was so long ago that it doesn't matter anymore. I don't think any of them were the one. If that makes a difference, just potential girlfriends who might have had the possibility of becoming serious. Story 104. I may not think about her as much these days since it has been roughly 7 years. However, she still holds the status of the one who got away, and I don't think that will ever change. Story 105. I think we all had an early crush that broke our hearts, but for me, that's it. By the time I was 21, I had become emotionally detached towards women. Story 106. I met a girl during my freshman year, and we hit it off, but we lived on opposite sides of the country. We made a youthful agreement that if we weren't married by the age of 40, we would give it a shot. As I turned 40 and concluded a relationship, I never reached out to her. Story 107. It's just that when you are single and lonely, you are susceptible to wishing you weren't, which means you wish you hadn't let a certain person get away. Could be someone you never talked to, someone who liked you, or a relationship that ended. Because it is so open, anyone can fill in the blank. Story 108. Not one of them got away in that sense. I am happily married. I was, however, blissfully unaware and socially awkward. Two women had sat in my lap before, and I was actually in another woman's bed because she forgot to dry the sheets on the spare bed at one of her parties. None of these situations would have led to a lasting relationship, but I did miss out on being young and foolish. Story 109. I had a dream about mine last night. We didn't say goodbye on bad terms. There just wasn't really proper closure. Story 110. No, there are only a few. I am very happy with my current partner. I have no regrets and do not wish to return to the past. However, I cannot deny that those were wonderful women and remarkable human beings whom I am privileged and humbled to know. My experiences with them changed me and contributed to my growth. In that sense, they all prepared me for my current partner, and I am grateful for that. They did not disappear. We parted ways because our time together was complete. The end of those relationships does not diminish their value. Story 111. It depends on your definition of got away. If you include people you really wanted to connect with and, in retrospect or even at the time, realize you probably could have built a relationship with if you had tried, I would guess most men have many. If you gave us a time machine and said, you can only use this for one mission, to try again with the one that got away, many of us would have a very hard time deciding which one that was. But if you mean people you were in a relationship with and it ended, I would guess a large majority of men and women do not have significant regrets or think of them as having got away. Of course, some people do, but probably a minority. Story 112. I love my wife, but I occasionally fondly remember my college girlfriend and her fantastic features. The relationship was challenging, but I have pleasant memories. Story 113. She got away, and I still cry about it from time to time. It was 12 to 13 years ago. I think she gained some weight, but she was supposed to gain weight with me, not him. Story 114. 25 years later. I am not the same person I was before I had to end my engagement due to infidelity. I have never felt the same about anyone before or since, including my late wife and my current wife. Story 115. There are many women who came into my life, and every once in a while I think about them and the what if regarding what we had. However, it's not just one person. I don't have regrets about these individuals. Life happens. Some people may not have anyone they think of in that way. Story 116. I'd imagine so, yes. Confessing to someone is difficult for many guys. They often struggle to find the right moment, the right words, or the courage to express their feelings. If they do manage to confess, they might stumble over their words, resort to cheesy pickup lines, or try too hard to impress the girl, leading to awkward moments. They may accidentally say something that hurts or offends her. Once they are in a relationship, there are even more ways they could jeopardize it, potentially leading to a breakup. Adolescence is particularly challenging in this regard, as it is a time when people often fall in love easily, face awkward moments, and lack the life experience to navigate these situations effectively. Story 117. I do. An ex-fiancée to whom I got engaged far too quickly, who ended things very abruptly nearly 20 years ago. She gave me 2 or 3 reasons that didn't make much sense afterward, but based on what I found out later, I believe she cheated on me with a colleague, became pregnant, and ended up converting to that colleague's religion. The next time I heard from her, she had unconverted again. Things changed abruptly when I inadvertently saw an email that could have been incriminating. I mentioned it jokingly but brushed it off and didn't bring it up again. After she ended things, it slowly dawned on me that she was probably cheating on me with her pen pal and had left me for him. I should care more about cheating, but I still just don't. She was gorgeous and extremely smart, but also capable of being very mean, so in hindsight, I'm glad it ended the way it did. I was distraught at the time and remember the couple of days after she left pretty well. I made some oatmeal but didn't heat it properly, so it turned into a brick. I sat on the sofa at 4 a.m. eating this horrible, congealed, tepid oatmeal brick. The next day, a friend came to see me, but unfortunately, he immediately fell head over heels for my roommate and stayed the night with her. This meant that the following day was full of gross public displays of affection I couldn't bear to watch. I should also mention that my roommate and I had dated for a few months sometime before. This guy's response to me being dumped by my fiancée was basically to make out with my ex in front of me. Very tactful. Bizarrely, though, I'm still friends with both of them. Their relationship lasted maybe a month, possibly less. They annoyed each other immensely, so I suppose there was a bit of karma there. They're both married to different people now, and it has been nearly 2 decades, so meh. Story 118. A couple of hypothetical scenarios, rather than getting away. I know enough about them to understand that it wouldn't have worked. Story 119. My prom date dropped many hints that she was interested in me and wanted kisses, but I was focused on being a gentleman and missed my chance. I don't think the relationship would have lasted, but I still can't believe I let it slip away. Oh well. Story 120. There is always a form of unrequited love. A crush, a desire, or perhaps a mistake in a partnership that could have gone better. Story 121. All my exes have told me I was still loved by them, even when I thought that doing adult content would change their feelings. Honestly, I think this is more true for men than for women because women tend to fall in love with potential and have high expectations that can lead to disappointment, eventually causing them to fall out of love like a movie in reverse. Men, on the other hand, watch the story unfold. Story 122. As a young boy into my teens, I was convinced that Shania Twain's tour bus would break down in my small town and we would fall in love. Other than that, no. Story 123. I have been happily married for nearly 30 years, but there is one person I wonder if I might have been as happy with if things had worked out. However, neither of our families approved of our dating due to cultural differences, and that was too significant an obstacle for her to overcome. I do not view her as someone who got away because, in the end, things worked out well for me. Story 124. When I was 20, I dated a girl for 6 months who eventually broke up with me. I have never been so infatuated with anyone in my life. To this day, she remains in my mind as an image of perfection. I was irresponsible and she was right to end things with me, but it was one of the most crushing experiences I have ever faced. Now, I have been married for 13 years and have a family. I cannot adequately express how much I love my wife. That other girl is like a fairy tale forest nymph, still present in my thoughts. I remember that perfect angel who got away, but that is an idealized memory of a lovesick kid. It's not as if I would leave my wife if I met her now. The memory of that relationship hurt me for several years, but now it is simply something that happened, and I appreciated it while it lasted. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.